What's up, boys? Back for round three. Round three was interesting. It was, in my opinion, a much more interesting game than the first two rounds. Round three was about as much of a Gavin game as you could really get. I had a pretty good opening. Did pretty well in the middle game. Got a pretty substantial lead, and then I just started throwing it away as much as I possibly could. Any chance I got. Um, but yeah, round three was interesting. I sat down for the board. I figured round one didn't really go too well with the Carl Khan, so if I saw e4, I was gonna try out the Sicilian Dragon. I had been studying it a lot more recently than the Carl Khan. If I saw d4, then I would just play something symmetrical and try and figure it out. Um, but yeah, so across from me was, I think, Aniruddha is how you pronounce his name. Um, he was in high school, I think. He had a Texas A&M sweatshirt on, which is fairly interesting. But yeah, so we sat down, and he played the first move, which was knight f3, the ready, which fairly shocked me. Um, I really haven't seen much of it, but the repertoire I play into it is a Sicilian invitation, so it kind of worked out. I wanted to play the Sicilian, and I kind of got it. I kind of got forced into it. Didn't really have to overthink too much. So I played the Sicilian invitation, and he transposes it into a symmetrical English. Um, the symmetrical English is one of the most boring positions in the game, one of the most boring openings, I think. Um, and this is the first part where we really kind of break symmetry. Um, so he pushes d6. Um, of course, I have the option of playing d6 myself, but I really didn't want to allow this bishop to this square. It's just going to be a pain in the ass. He's going to try and put the queen there and then force trade off my bishop by going here. So I went h6 to really prevent his bishop ever from coming here. He also can't really set up this battery anymore because it's double protected, at least for now, until I castle. Of course, I could always castle on this side, but I figure I was just going to copy him, and then whatever side he castled on, I was going to castle on, just so I don't really get too blown out of the water in this game. He goes a3, of course, eventually preparing b4. He can't do it right away because takes. He's just losing a pawn for no reason. But yeah, so I get my. The point behind this is really to get the rook off of the diagonal, first off. And second off, it's to prepare my own pawn expansion over here. Because I could go a6 and b5, and he can't take with his knight because now it's defended by the rook, of course. So that was the whole idea behind that. He castles, I copy him. And then he goes for e4, and I felt like that was really the first mistake he made in this game. Of course, blocking in this bishop, but it's also giving me this square for free. He has a lot. There's really a lot of dark square weaknesses in his position right now. I really couldn't tell what I wanted to do in this position though. I kind of wanted to go here, but I didn't really want to rush it because it's doubling my pawns, and I could always go here and just get a big old center. But I felt like I didn't really want to rush it too much. I also looked at e5 straight away for a little bit, but I couldn't really tell if that's what I wanted to do. Of course, it's blocking in my own bishop, but I felt like symmetry here was fine. There's always drawing chances, and I could always just offer a draw early on if I didn't really feel like playing the position too much, if I felt like it was too much of a drag. But what I ended up settling on is d6. I settled on d6 mainly because I felt like in these positions with e5, I was going to end up playing d6 anyway eventually just to support these pawns. And even if I wanted to go here, I would end up playing d6 eventually just to support everything. So I felt like it was the most flexible move in this position. It's also disallowing something like this just because I see it more now. So I felt pretty confident that that was the right way to go. And then of course I go d6, opening up my bishop, so he has to disallow this whole thing that I disallowed earlier. And then of course if he plays h3, I have to play a6 like he did. Of course prepping this pawn expansion on this side. He goes bishop here. I was a bit bummed because of course I wanted something like this eventually. Now I can't do that just because he sees it way more. I'd lose a pawn for no reason. But I get this pawn expansion basically for free now. He takes, and I have a really good position here. I'm thinking maybe something like this, anything like this. I have a lot of options here to develop. I was feeling pretty comfortable. And then he goes knight back, and I couldn't really decide what it was that he wanted with this knight move. The only thing I could really think of is that he's adding more pressure to this square. So I figured he really wanted to make this pawn push. Kind of leaves this pawn out to dry for a little bit, and that's really the only thing I could come up with. If I don't address it, of course he gets this big center, which I didn't want to let him get. So of course to disallow that pawn push, I went e5. Now if he takes, I just take for free. And then he plays this. I really stopped and thought for a while here. I didn't know how to properly address this move. I knew it wasn't a good move. I just didn't know how to properly punish it at first. I was thinking maybe sack. I thought about that for a while, but I came to the conclusion that if I sacked, I would just have a bishop here. My queen can't go here because it's covered 2 times. It can't go here because it's covered. It really does nothing on this square. So I just have a bishop out here, and he has all of his pieces over here participating in defending his king. So I felt like there was really no sack there. I felt like I eventually decided that the best move was h5, which the computer does agree with. The idea being, if he pushes here, my knight could go pretty much anywhere, I feel, and be solid. If he closes the position, my king is never being attacked ever again, and I already have such a good grasp on the queen side that I felt like I could just rotate my pieces and then just make something happen on this side of the board. But he ends up taking. I take with the knight. Don't want to split up my pawns too much. And then he plays knight here, and I didn't realize at first how ungodly annoying this knight is going to be in the long run. The stockfish doesn't really want me to trade right away, and I didn't. I ended up finding the best move here, which I was fairly proud of, which is knight f4, going into his position. But this really forces him to give me one of his bishops. The idea being, either he takes and I take and I get the bishop pair, or he doesn't take and I could just take the light squared bishop, which is the whole point in this English fianchetto system, is having that light squared bishop, which I felt pretty good about, considering I would have the bishop pair and I have so much queenside activity. But he goes queen here. The idea, of course, being takes. He's winning his pawn back, or he's winning his pawn, but he's giving me this pawn for free. If I take, I just have this. So I go ahead and take. He asks my knight what it's doing, and I go back. He takes, and he's winning the pawn back for 1 turn, but all of those trades opened up my bishop. This dragon style bishop. Now he has to move the knight, and I spent a decent amount of time trying to figure out what I wanted to do here and what I even could do here. Obviously I have something like bishop takes, just winning another pawn, and then I thought about this for a while, just trying to get my bishop into the party because it's doing just about nothing right now. Those were the main things I thought about. The reason I eventually thought I couldn't take this was because I was really worried about something like this. I felt like I was on the verge of getting mated in a lot of these positions, a lot through this game actually. So I decided not to take that pawn. I thought it was just way too risky, and I thought I was throwing the game. So I came back here just to force another piece off the board. Um, Either he takes and I could take back, or he moves and I could take this knight. Um, he ends up taking. I take with the pawn just to keep tempo on my side and really keep a hold on this position. Um, yeah, he has to move. He has to address the queen being hit, and then I put my knight here, and it just lives there for a while on this outpost. He really can't remove it. He has a light square bishop. I have a dark square knight. The only way he can really remove it is by going here and forcing me to trade off that knight with his knight. Um, uh, but yeah, he goes here, and I knew I was a pawn up. I knew I was ahead, but I figured I wanted to get into an endgame here because just being a pawn up, I felt like there's really no way I could lose this endgame. So I actually miscalculated pretty terribly right here. So the calculation in my head went, the main thing I looked at was check. He has to move back. If he puts his bishop here, I could just take it because it's defended by this bishop, so he's not going to give away his bishop for free. So check, his only option is to go here, and then I thought I block his queen. If he trades, I just go here, and that is forking everything, and I just get I get the queen back, and now it lives on this square forever. It's hitting this. I have options of going here and here. I just felt like it was a really good position with my knight on this square. So I played check, and then about right when I played the check, I realized none of that works because in the position where his king goes here and the queen's here, I don't have this check because this knight is blocking it. I didn't realize that. And so he moves out of the way, and I realize my queen's being hit and it has to move. But if it just goes out of the way, like somewhere right here, and just hangs out, he has this, and I'm getting mated. I really had to figure out what to do. I went ahead and went with the plan anyway. If he takes the queen, I'll just I'll take back with my pawn. I'll have these double pawns, but he'll have to address this knight being hit. I feel like I'll have some tempo. I'll be in a decent position. He always has these weaknesses in his position, and I'll figure it out somehow. I felt like I was doing all right. But he went back. He declined the trade. And I figured it was finally time to get the bishop involved and ask this rook what it wants to do. It attacks my pawn, and I think for a minute here, again, just trying to calculate what I want to do. I always have something like this, forking the king and queen. Obviously, I can't do it right now because it's blocked, or it's defended by the bishop. And I also always have something like queen takes. So queen takes, and then again forking here. But this knight, it's just always such a pain. Every time I see some kind of tactic, this knight is defending that tactic. It was really starting to get annoying. I just go ahead and defend it for now. Stockfish really wanted me to just push takes and try to figure it out, but it wanted me to push like multiple times through this game. He looks at this pawn. It's not really attacking it because it's defended by this knight. But I go ahead and try and trade this bishop off as well. I knew he wouldn't take because he can't, because he just loses the game with this check. Again, it's pinning this, so it can't really move out of the way either. So I'm forcing the bishops off the board. And then he gives me a queen trade now. And I thought for a while here, I really didn't want to trade queens because I knew I was better. I knew I was getting something in this position. Again, I cannot go here. I can't go here just because this stupid knight. For a quick second, I thought about something like takes, and then trying to go for this fork, but I really just couldn't calculate after takes, or okay, I couldn't calculate after takes, check, move, takes, and then takes. I just didn't know if I was winning. I didn't know what the material would have even looked like. It was just so hard for me to see that much going on, especially over the board. I decided to take first with the bishop just because this forces him to take right away. If he doesn't take right away and he tries to rush with the queen, then I'll take with the pawn, and I'm attacking the rook and the knight at the same time, and he's just losing another piece, which he doesn't really want to do. So he takes with the king, of course, and again, I looked briefly at something like this. I dismissed it just because he's on this diagonal, and he's just got so much power with this this rook and this missing pawn here. So I go ahead and trade. I spent so much time, and all I could think of was to trade that. He takes, again, not hitting this just because I have that here. But I went ahead and went for this pawn break. I felt like if takes, you can't take because it's defended two ways for one. Good lord. But I felt like I was doing pretty good. I have 4 pawns in the center against really his one. He has these 2 outside pawns, but they're always just going to be targets in the long run, and I felt like I was doing pretty good here. And then he plays rook here. I noticed that any position where his king gets to these squares, once again, I'm still attacking this. It was on there. But yeah, I really didn't know what he wanted to do with that, but I knew that it was too slow because I have this pawn push again, and now he has to move the knight, and I can give him this check. If he moves here or here, I have this check now because the knight isn't on this square anymore, and I'm just winning the rook for free. He sees that, of course, and I push my king, opening up the file for these rooks, and he plays knight back to g3, and it is mate on the board. There's a forced mate. Yeah, turn 35, I have forced mate on the board. 2 moves I looked at, one h8, I figured he would just go here, and then he kind of could live here for a bit. I would have to take time moving this rook and then coming here, and by that time he would be able to take this pawn, and then maybe he's getting in and checking me. And I was really having a hard time seeing what I could do in this position. So of course I picked the wrong move, and I put rook f4, just trying to disallow this, so that this is mate. If he was to play any move other than king here, this is mate. Of course he sees it, goes there. I give him this check, and my logic right here was thinking he's forced to go back, so now once again I have this fork, but I forgot that his knight moved back to this square from being here. So I don't have this fork anymore. I saw this position. Stockfish says it's -11, but I have to do something like this or something like this. I don't really recall what Stockfish wanted me to do in this position, but I was starting to get a little bit frustrated just because of how well this knight is holding everything together, and it's just such a stupid spot for a knight to be. I go ahead and just go back and defend it. I still have the lead, but it's just not looking good. I'm trying my hardest to throw this game away. He really qualifies the rook being here by putting his other rook and creating this battery. I didn't really know how I wanted to defend that pawn at first, and so I just played a passive move, played knight back just to defend it, and he went back, and so I attacked this, and he threatened a repetition of moves. I really didn't want to repeat moves because I knew I was winning. I just had to figure out how I was winning. It was I really couldn't understand how I was winning, or if I even was at this point. I felt like I was drawing. I was giving drawing chances back to him, and so I just said fuck it, and I just went ahead and traded the knight anyway. The pawn is now one move away from promoting, and he moves his king here. The idea is to disallow my rook to go here and hit this pawn, disallow this push. But I go ahead and create this battery here. He can't defend it, obviously, because I take, but he does. He defends this pawn from promotion, and once again blunders mate. Mate is on the board, force mate. So I just took the pawn, and I'm giving him a little bit more checks, and then I took my knight or my rook into this corner, which is the right way to go. And he moves his rook, and I just have mate. I have this mate. He's forced. That's mate. I have check here, mate. I have a lot of mates, and in this position I saw 0 of them. In this position I said I was 2 pawns up, so why not make it 3? Kind of ooga booga. I don't know what I'm doing at this point. I'm just trying to collect pawns, and I'm up 3. He gets 1 back, and I still have mate on the board. I still can go check here, mate. That's all it is. But I just trade rooks. He takes, I take. Once again, I'm up 3 pawns. Then he goes rook here. I'll be honest, I really didn't see this. Obviously, he's kind of just collecting all my pawns here. It's still -9 because, of course, I can defend it, but that's his idea. He also has these checks, which are always annoying. I can't go here. I figured I'd threaten to take this because it'd be with check. He goes here. I give him this check. He goes back. And then I threaten this again. And once again, he threatens repetition of moves. But I knew I had to be winning in this position. I felt like maybe I was blundering a draw somewhere, but I knew that at worst I was giving a draw. I did not think I could possibly lose this position, so I figured I'd play it out anyway. Not give him the draw, of course, being up 2 pawns or 3 pawns. So I go king f7. The whole idea behind this is if he gives me this check, my king goes here, and he really has to move either here or here. And I'm taking, and he has no pawns left. And he goes here. I take, he takes, and then I push. Now he threatens this pawn. There's no way for me to defend this pawn at all. However, what I calculated was if he takes this pawn, I have rook check, and if he takes, I take, and there's no way this king is covering this square. I'm promoting in 3 turns. So I felt pretty good about that. I pushed the pawn again because he's really not defending it. But he gives me this check first, and of course I have really 2 options here. I quickly dismissed this because there's no reason for me to go to this square just to have him check me again and then go back, and then he's gonna check me again. I'm gonna end up on this square eventually anyway, so I figured I'd just go there now. He covers this square though. I defend it, and he finally takes with his king. And I cut his king off. I really don't want his king to get involved in any of these pawns, because I feel like if I could defend this file and not let his king get involved, I'll always be winning, and it should be easy. He goes towards my rook, I go towards his. He attacks my rook, I defend my rook, and he attacks this pawn. And I see what his idea here is. His idea is eventually just plainly take and take. Remove the defender. I go towards his rook here, thinking that if he takes, that's fine, which he does, because I don't have to defend the rook at all. I don't even have to move it. If he takes, I'm just promoting, and I'm winning this endgame, queen versus rook, all the time. But he sees that, of course, and goes, he attacks it. I defend it. He attacks my rook. I go back here. At this point, time is getting fairly low. We had 45 minutes on the clock to start. I think I was in single digit minutes here. I don't remember exactly how much time was, but on my note card I started messing up some of the notations here just because time was starting to get low. Um, he's going towards the action. I attack his rook. He goes back. And I kind of have to be careful. Not really. There's not a whole lot of moves I could make. But say I just do nothing. He always has this, and I can't really move anywhere, and he's just x-raying my rook. So I just go towards it. Now he gives me the check. I'm going here. He doesn't want to trade because I'm just winning. He gives me more checks, but honestly, this kind of just helps me out. Because in positions like this, you really just want to be behind your rook so you can promote. He brings his rook in. For some reason, I really just didn't want to go here because I thought this was checkmate, not realizing that I could take. So I move my rook out. He moves his rook. I move my rook over here, trying to get to this square with my king eventually. He goes here. Then I cut his king off once again, and he resigns here in this position because there's no way to stop the pawn from promoting. A sloppy last few moves, but I mean, I converted the position. Should have been over about, what, 40 moves ago. I think on like turn 60 or something like that, I realized I had forced mate like 20 moves prior, and I just got even more tilted. I felt like I had thrown the game away multiple times, which I did. Yeah, not a super clean game, an interesting game, sure. But yeah, I had force mate a few times and I just missed it, and then it turned into a 70+ move game. But I got the win out. At this point I have 2 points out of 3 possible. Looking fairly good. I think the second last game to finish in my group in the open section. So I looked at the standings, and there is one person with 3 points out of 3. There is one person with 2.5 out of 3, and then there was, I think, 3 or 4 of us with 2 out of 3. So I knew that going into the next round, I would have the white pieces, and I knew that if I could win, then I would be in the money. But yeah, after this, I didn't really have a whole lot of time to prep for game 4 or round 4, just because this match took so long. I pretty much gave the results to the tournament director, and then he had the paper with the next pairings, and I just had to go sit down for round 4.